converted man here. I've got Jess Goes Camping, who's a dog. No, it's not. It's a person. Hello.
Hello there.
And Jessie is not a girl, so there goes my universe of reality again. Anyways, whatever. We're going to talk about what they believe and stuff. And, well, I guess, we could also talk about what I believe, which is a very short list. It's really nothing. I don't know. So, Jess, you've commented on a number of my videos, and I've seen you here and there. And so we're passing ships in the night and whatever. And you're a theist, but I don't know what type of theist or anything else. So, why don't you go a little bit into that for us, if you would?
Yeah, I'm a theist. I'm not an inheritanist. I can't speak that word. Anyways, I don't believe every word is right on the money. I can align with your last video, even with we don't know what opened the door, so therefore it's God. No, I don't go for that either. So
yeah, it's a special form of a logical fallacy, appeal to ignorance, where I don't know is the answer, and the person jumps from that to whatever the answer they think it is, and really they should have stopped it. I don't know.
Yeah, true enough.
So now, so Christian or Catholic or some other
Christian.
Okay. Any particular brand or just
no? Not anymore. I was Baptist before. I left the faith and returned. So.
No. Okay. Yeah. So what do you mean by left the faith? What's
I just stopped believing, I guess. I'll say that.
Oh. Well, what
I didn't go atheism. I went kind of agnostic.
Oh, okay. So was there a reason that you want to go into, or is it, if anything's too personal, obviously,
Well, that I guess so. I didn't grow up as a Christian, really. We were introduced to church, and we went, I don't know, maybe for a year, and then we'd not go, and then we went again, and then not go, and then went once in a while. But no, I didn't. At 19, I wasn't. I thought the Bible was the best self-help book.
Yeah, so it wasn't really a family thing. It was more kind of a cultural sort of thing, like everyone was going, so might as well go. Or
no, I did. Well, I didn't go. Right, I didn't go. At 19, okay. I had nothing to do with church. I worked in Russia for 2 years, and when I come back, that's when I went back to church, and that was a Baptist church. I played on the worship team. I played guitar, so and then that church kind of the pastor left, and the church kind of floundered, I'll say. And after that, I kind of left it. That's when I left. So I'm a little bit older than you.
Well, I'm not gonna. No, that's not. I try to leave ages and whatever to the side. Yeah. They're not relevant as far as the arguments go. They might be of note to somebody. I suppose somebody might be curious or whatever. But yeah, so the belief in God is kind of separate from religion for some, and for others, the two are very intertwined. So what would you say? Where would you say you're at with that? Is it like the two go hand in hand, or is one separate from the other?
They're separate. Yes.
Okay. Because obviously, like the church can fail, the people can fail, but like the concept or the belief of God, it's like that's independent from all that other stuff to some degree.
Right.
has your time on the internet changed any beliefs that you have had regarding God or any aspect of your faith?
Yeah. It actually got, let's see. So when did YouTube start? Around 2008,
Yeah,
2005?
something like that. I don't know without looking it up. Yeah, it was quite so. Yeah, whenever that started, right?
So it was a little before that when I was returning back. So I Raging Atheist was the big. He was
Oh wow, yeah,
the top guy, and
yeah.
that kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, what? What's this? And then so did Dr. Dino. That kind of went. I went, what? So I was never taught young Earth creationism ever. So that threw me too.
Yeah, that's a very almost I would dare say it's a United States problem that the evangelistic crowd grabbed a hold of this idea that evolution was somehow intertwined with not believing in God, and
Right.
that's not true. I mean, it's just but that's their doctrine, that's their teaching, and there's problems. All sorts of problems with that.
Yeah, I think there can be. I mean, you have to look at it in a way that they have data too, but
They
does
don't.
that fit with what I think main science is? And well, for the most part, no.
Yeah, they're way off. Um, and I think that by doing that they kind of make themselves maybe feel special, but also at the same time, anyone looking in that's not an outsider looking in, even a fellow believer, is going to be like, oh, these guys, why are you're making the rest of us look bad? I mean, come on.
I'm not going to argue with them though, because I think their main tenet is still, Jesus Christ. So.
Yeah, that now. I haven't really seen you per se debate anything particularly. It's usually you have more kind of your thoughts more than anything else that I've seen.
Okay.
I might be not remembering any particular debate that you've offered, at least to me, at any rate. I see that kind of like you're more like I'm very much about the debate, and trying to get to the root of the argument and things like this. But I've kind of viewed you as more sociable and like, well, here's what I think about this, and so it's a very different approach, and no approach I think is right or wrong in that sense. uh it's like I just want to know why people believe what they do, and if that's something that they can challenge, they're willing to challenge, they want to challenge, and if not, why not? And if so, uh, what would be the cost of that, or what would be the benefit of that?
Right. So as far as the science goes, if I said, okay, some science says that we live in a hologram. Some science says that there's a beginning. The BGV theory says there's a beginning. Some science says that there's a multiverse. But even to work within the BGV theory, it would have to still have a beginning. If we have an infinity, that brings on a paradox. So it doesn't follow either, some science says. So if I said science and God, well, it aligns with God. I won't say that that's the reason, but it aligns. Maybe I can put it that way.
Well, I mean, as far as the young earthers go, where they make these ridiculous claims about the age of the earth and whatnot, just, well, that's obviously wrong. The data's in, and the earth is 4.54 billion years old. Your versus 13 billion, and that's just how it is. And if there's a deity, if there's a god, then that's how it made things.
Right. So it can't. If science is right, then it should align with what what God says.
Well, I
You know.
suppose that's one way to look at it, but then the problem might come if there was some sort of scientific discovery that you didn't think aligned. Then you would have to choose between the data that says one thing and a holy book that you thought said something else. So would you simply say, well, I guess I was wrong about how I viewed that, in order
Well,
to like, because I've heard people say things like, if the Bible said 1+1 was 1,000, I'd believe it. And it's like, would you though? Like,
well, where does like? I don't read the Bible isn't science anyway, and even to it, let's just say that God sat down and had a conversation with Moses and said, "Okay, write this in your book. I started the world 4.5 million years ago, and this is how I did it." He wouldn't know what to write. I mean, so it's not even to me. It's not a science book.
well,
Can't.
it's not a science book. I agree on that. Of course, I'd have some questions about the idea of God sitting down with Moses, but
Well, yeah.
yeah. Uh, um, so over time, has your faith wavered, gotten stronger, gotten challenged in different ways? Like, your view of God evolved or changed over time, or has it been kind of constant? Or how would you frame that?
I, I went to Autumn. Do you know Autumn? She's a new atheist online.
No, I'm not familiar
She,
yet.
Craig Reed
Oh, yeah.
interviewed
Craig did a thing, right? Yeah, I saw that. I
on
haven't
her.
seen it yet, right?
And while I watched that, it was funny because I one of the things that came to mind was watching this her deconversion story. It it realizes what I probably can say is that maybe it as she's speaking, my clarity on God is increasing. So like,
Interesting.
yeah.
So it's almost like do you think that she deconverted for reasons that you would have that just affirm God more than? Or
If I was her, everything that she said, I would deconvert too.
I see.
Her 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 view of God is exactly what I don't believe in.
Ah, so do you think that and I don't think that, well, is it that when considering unbelievers, do you have a preset notion of why they don't believe, or do you let them inform you of that?
Right.
How do you tackle that sort of thing?
I let them inform me. I think she's a very, very bright young lady, and she's got some absolutely huge points that makes. I went and watched a couple of her videos on Hitchens' debate with William Lane Craig, and that was probably one of the most intelligent videos of a review that I've ever seen, I would have to say.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Well,
I haven't watched too many atheist review these videos though, but
yeah.
there's a lot of, just like Christians, there's a lot of dumb arguments, and there's a lot of dumb arguments
Oh
too
yeah.
on the
Oh, certainly.
yeah.
Yeah. That's like my whole YouTube career is looking at all the bad arguments. Although I do tend to focus on theists. If I find an atheist that makes a bad one, I will eat them, even if it's me, which I've done.
Right.
Packaged meat doesn't count. Oh, anyways, never mind. The why, I guess, as a skeptic, I've gotten the, well, why do you bother, or why do you talk about this question? So why do you talk about this? Why do you interact with us non-believers when
well, for you, because you're I watched S.J. Thomason since she's been on here, right? And for you, because you I think you had a thing for her for a while.
No, I didn't. Whoever said that's lying.
Anyway, you did a few videos on her, and you made me laugh, so that's why.
Okay, cool.
And then, so I come over here and watch you once in a while, and you're on there once in a while, and then I remember you're here, so I come over and watch a little more. Then you invited me. Me one day, so I came back.
Yeah, and here we are. Yeah. Well, generally speaking, like, is it that you're trying to convince people that there's a God, or is it just kind of curiosity, or is it something else?
Well, probably a big part of it is I don't have TV. So
this is entertainment. Okay.
Yeah, this is
something to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fine.
So that's one part, but the other part is there's a lot of interesting things, just the other day, SJ did something on against, with reviewing Holy Kool-Aid, and that was pretty interesting. That's her, that's her doctorate, so I thought that was really interesting. She does a lot of good stuff. I like that. I like Craig Reed. He talks pretty good about people too.
Yeah, I don't have I cannot find a thing to say bad about Craig, but
right.
one day I will, and then it will be bad. It will be great, and he'll rue that day. No, he's a good guy. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because humans, we're all, it seems, looking to try to figure all this stuff out. And for the person that has a belief in God, it's like, to some extent, they have the answer, quote unquote, but it's like, well, but they're still unanswered questions, but there's a comfort there, at least talking about my own beliefs, that they certainly gave me that feeling. So is that something that you notice, or is that something that kind of keeps what I guess what I'm trying to say is, what keeps your faith going? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it, is it good to believe in God, or is it
yeah, it is.
Why?
I won't say it's like, my life changed quite a bit since I did this, but it would have anyway. God's not a genie in the sky that you can just pray to and get, right? That's not how I see him. I worked overseas for 2 years, and it was a country that was communist, and this was a little bit after the wall came down, I guess you could say. I saw mafia and dead people almost always, and it was pretty troubling to me. And so that's probably why.
Well, so God helps you make sense of that sort of
yeah
human activity, human tragedy.
Yeah. So if we look at Genesis, and people are they're denying the good, which is, say, God, right? And they want to go their own way. That to me is exactly what I see out in the world.
Is the good whatever that might be, independent from the God?
I think it's a choice that man can make. Yeah. You can choose to the good or choose not.
Mm. So it's possible to do good without a belief in God.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. You're good.
what I don't know about that. Um, what ultimately is the point or the purpose? Because every believer has kind of a different take on this. That, am I skeptic? Me, am I screwed, and am I going to burn or disappear? Or what will become of my soul if I have one? When I no longer am on the mortal coil.
Oh, you're wondering if you're going to burn forever
Or
in
whatever, I don't
in
know.
in torment.
Sure.
I don't think so. Um, oh, David Bentley Hart. I align with him that there's I'm kind of a universalist.
Hmm.
That I think that the after you die, the sin will be burnt out of you, and you can choose from there whether you want to carry on or not.
Hmm.
How about
Yeah,
that?
universalism is very interesting. I've only encountered it a couple of times, and it's always like, well, what do you do with that? Because there's like, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what religion anyone is or what, It's like,
Right.
well, then it's just what, live a good life? Is it? But if the sin is burned away, is it that whatever is left after that? That's what makes it to to the paradise then, or
Well,
so,
again, it's choice. Where like, do you choose toward the good or do you choose toward your own inhibitions? Right. Your so where when in the book it says he will give you your desires. Right.
hmm,
It means that your heart will change. Your desires will change to work for the good rather than the other way around, right? So one of the things that if you look at Dawkins says it's a selfish gene. So what's the selfish gene? What are we doing with hospitals if we have a selfish gene? So because that works opposite to that. We're looking after the weak, so the weak survive.
oh yeah, I haven't read that I wouldn't know even where to begin to comment. There's
Well,
plenty of uh, altruism has its place in evolutionary advantages.
well,
Um,
cooperation, yes,
yeah,
cooperation,
cooperation is
yes.
a benefit for the whole species,
Mm-hmm.
and it could very well be that one of those people we take care of, enhances our ability to do something else, because they had an idea that nobody else had, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that sort of idea is why I personally am against, say, capital punishments. Like, if a dead person can't learn that they were wrong, you know killing them's not going to undo what they did, whatever that might be, and they might come up with an idea that we could use. So why don't we see if they're able to come up with anything useful before we just do away with them. I mean,
So
let
what makes you think that a person should actually find out what they did wrong?
well, I mean, if that's the point of, I mean, it depends on what the point of prison or justice is. Is it the is it penitentiary was to penit, to realize that you had done a wrong, and then to beg for forgiveness, and then it's somewhere changed, and jail was just a place you put people, and I don't know. I think somewhere along the line for justice, that it seems murky what it is, or what it's supposed to be, or what it's for. Um, And so if
So
we're
what is
saying,
justice? What
yeah,
is
what is it
justice?
exactly? So it's a very tricky thing that intertwines to some degree with God and belief in God, because what you were saying, like, well, we choose to do good or bad, and to some extent that may or may not be true. For all I know, we don't have a choice. It's all, because of our genes or where we were born or how we were born, or goodness knows, what chemicals are going into me or out of me or whatever. um, but assuming that I have any say in the matter, it's like, well, it sounds a lot like Zoroastrianism, where if you did more good than bad, then you'll get to the good place. If you do more bad than good, you'll go to the bad place. And that's a nice belief, because I mean, it should get people to do good, but we don't know about the afterlife, so we need some sort of system while people are alive to deal with things that they did that society has deemed inappropriate for whatever reasons, and that is justice. Uh, and it can be very flawed because humans are flawed. I don't think, and every religion has its own kind of celestial justice. In Christianity, for the non-universalist, it doesn't really matter what you did, because the key component is believing that Jesus died for your sins. And if you don't do that, you're screwed. If you do, you're fine. But in your system, it sounds more like, well, what you do does matter, and you should try to do more good, because there's an actual consequence in the hereafter to doing good. Whereas, so it's closer to what justice is supposed to be in our culture. Whether or not we've actually succeeded in that's another story. But am I wrong in any of that?
No. I think you're doing very well.
Okay. What would Okay, let me ask you this. This is a question I posed in my book, which is out now. Buy my book. I
Okay.
still need to make a video that promotes my book. At any rate, I ask this question. I say, okay,
Buy the converted man's book.
Yeah, but if you had to choose, there's a God, but there is no afterlife, or there's an afterlife, but there's no God. What do you choose, and why?
I would still probably. Okay, so if God is love, I would choose God. So
Interesting.
I'd have to define God, right? If God is evil, I wouldn't choose God.
Fair enough. Because it's good to have love, regardless if there's an afterlife or not.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. I think that idea is something that is a very powerful one. That love for yourself and for others is something. Certainly, it seems that we're lacking lately in a lot of what's going on. Especially here in America. I don't know about how Canada is doing.
Yeah. Wow.
How are things going up there?
Well, it's slow. Like I teach, and they closed my whole department, so it's I'm out of work.
Oh, because of C-19.
Yeah.
This stuff is taking its toll on the whole world. Do you think that we're going to learn anything from it?
Well, I'm hoping so, especially with what's going on down there. Like that's incredible. See, even when I look at this and I look back at say the French Revolution, right? They were going after the right things, and once they conquered, they didn't have the education or the knowledge of politics to run the country. right? And that's kind of where it went a little haywire there. And I think the same kind of thing is happening here. I'm not sure. I'm not, because I haven't looked at that too much, but it's really sad and hard with what's going on down.
Yeah, this is I have to say kind of a departure from my normal sort of skeptical picking at people's beliefs, because that's not, I don't see it. I don't yet hear, like, you haven't said, well, X is true, so I don't really have anything to poke at quite yet. Whereas others have made it very clear that they have a claim. So do you think that you have, I guess I'd say it this way, you have a belief, or do you think that you have the truth? Is it I believe in God, or is it there is a God?
Oh, I think everybody struggles with God, to tell you the truth. I think everybody does. I think what is God and where is God, and especially now with all this information thrown at you, is God this? Is God this? Is God this? And I struggle with a lot of that. But I have to say that when I'm not away from all that and everything's going on, I can look at the world and go, yeah, there's a God. It explains itself. Yeah.
And well, now when you say God, are you saying just love, or are you just replacing one word with another, or are you talking about something else?
Well, let's you did a video about yourself not wanting a fight.
Yeah.
What about that? Okay, you were the spy, you were trying to stop the fight, you were going from one side to the other. You also said you didn't know why you thought this. What about that? Why can't that be a sign of God?
Well, I mean, it would make me God, I guess.
No. You're just acting out what God is, right? Why can't that be?
Which is what then? Peace and
the
desire.
Good.
Yeah, the good,
yeah.
the desire for good, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be interesting. I think that would make it more of a diffuse idea, and that would be where I mean, obviously, I think God is just an idea. I don't think it's anything other than that.
Right.
And then it is, this difference of believing in a thing versus saying that thing is a thing. There is a difference. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is, other than the logical stance. That if somebody says I believe or I don't believe, then there's no argument. It's just like, okay, that's great. But if they say, X is true or X is false, it's like, okay, well, now we've got a debate on our hands, because you have the burden of proof, and you have to show that this is true somehow. And what are you going to do that? Where's your evidence? Where's your argument? And all that. But belief ideas like that, where it's just like, well, couldn't it just be when anyone is doing what is good, that is God in action? But then
a movement of God, yeah. Why?
Yeah,
why couldn't it?
Well, wouldn't the opposite be true? Like, if they're doing bad, then that's what, the will of the evil God, or demons, or Satan, or something like that? Or
no, it's the choice of moving away from God. Like it you either choose the good, or you choose the selfish, the greedy, the gluttony, right? All the things that are described as sin, I guess. So to me, that's a pretty good explanation, I think.
So, is there a consequence for not believing in a God? If in a spiritual sense, I think the answer was no. In a more mundane sort of, like, assessment for the rest of us, is there something to be gained from believing that we were lacking, or that we lost if we deconverted, or do you think that it's what's your thought on that?
My thought is this: you deconverted from a bad explanation of God. That's my thought. How about that? You still have a rather than a limited. If it was a bad explanation of God, you've opened up your mind more, right? So you won by deconverting from that. So you're getting. I don't see a problem with it. Like you're still a winner in that aspect, right?
Do you think that you have the right explanation of God, or do you think
I could be very wrong. I could be very wrong.
Interesting. So, what about other people? I guess it would change from person to person on what you would make of that.
Yeah. Well, let's look at a lot of the people that are deconverted. I'll bet you can relate to them when you were what you deconverted from, right? I bet you and them can sit down and have all the same. You can write a bunch of points on the table, and you go, yeah. That's right.
And many times, yes. Of course, I do have the friends that I know that never had a God belief, and that's very interesting to me because they never encountered God until later in life. Johnny, for example, Johnny Drive By, it wasn't until he was older. It's like, what is this? Like, just so it's this completely foreign concept from his point of view. So
Right.
he doesn't. He's always been atheist. He's never. It's just it's just like foreign language, and it's just, what are you guys talking about? And so he's interested for those reasons to understand what people are talking about. He's just like, yeah, but there's no evidence of it. You're just giving, and when he says evidence, he means a particular thing that no religion has to offer. Not the sort of evidence that the skeptic atheist type is asking for is not the sort of evidence that any religion has ever had, and I will predict ever will have.
Right. I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. And, the religious say, well, that's just not what God is. It's like, well, okay, well, until it is, we're not going to believe, I guess. We don't have that's just how we are. And maybe that's how God made us, if you want to go that route or whatever, I guess. But yeah, everyone has their own. We certainly try to make connections among our own group of people that we find on this internet thing. I suppose. I'm not sure how that intertwines with anything, but
so here's what I did when I returned. I went back into the internet was going crazy on, oh yeah, you have to this and Adam and Eve and this and that, and so I thought, okay, and the atheists were going, it's all Genesis is just a copy from a copy from a copy. So I went back and I read all that stuff, and that's where I started. And then I read history of the ancient Near East and a little bit of Egypt. Egypt varies quite a bit from one book to another and from one year to another, so it's a little hard to follow. So I didn't go too far in that. And then I looked at the biblical texts and the history of that, and I can apply that all that to history. It is their notion of God, So that's how I kind of came to it.
Oh, so you have you done the comparative religious studies, or?
Yeah, I was in India for a month. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hinduism is a whole another ball of wax. I've yet to talk to a Hindu I really would love to, because it's just like, it's a whole, I don't even know where I'd begin. It's just completely foreign, I know a few things, Shiva the Destroyer. I know that off the top of my head, and that's about it. you know.
Oh, do you want to know Ganesh? The story of Ganesh?
No. not until I encounter such a person. I'm not, not that
Okay.
terribly interested. But I kind of, I look at the idea that humans made up this idea of God as the more plausible answer than that God made us up. But even if that's the case, the idea could still be useful. And so it's just trying to make the idea more useful than it has been. And that's sort of the pull that I'm trying to kind of pull at. It's like, let's get away from that dogma stuff. Let's get away from the hellfire stuff. The closer to universalism would be good, and away from the anti-science stuff. And because humans seem to need religion, by and large, they need to have some sort of belief. So fine, let's make it a better one than what we have. Which is, that happens naturally over time anyways. The God ideas evolve over time, and some people seem to have better ideas of what God is than others. Ultimately, the question I pose is, yes, but is it a thing, or is it just an idea? And maybe a deeper question, does it even matter?
Well, I think it matters. The civilization's been laid out on it since 200 BC. I mean, so it definitely matters. That's one thing.
Well, money doesn't really exist until we made it exist, So it's like, it's kind of real, but it's not really based on anything, but it kind of is, So it's so it matters, but it's also kind of made up at the same time, even though it's not, but it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of these weird sort of groups, and maybe it's not a good analogy. Shut up, me.
So I know a lot of people, they bring up that one tribe, Dragna or something. I forget, but if you look back in time, there hasn't been one city ever created without a god, ever.
Oh, the Piana people.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to pronounce them. They have no
Yeah.
concept of God at all.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
None. But the way they think is very unique. There's probably been a couple, but it is something that has evolved in humans, with humans, for a very long time. But the question of, is it really real, or is it just in the brain? And maybe it doesn't matter one way or the other ultimately, because what matters is what people do, not what people believe.
Right. So what if it is just in the brain?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. So then the question that I ask is, are we willing and able to challenge that which we hold most dear, whatever that is? It may be God, it might be some idea about politics, or who's right and who's wrong, or whatever's going on. Are we willing and able to challenge that idea, whatever that idea is?
Well, why? Well, I think we have a whole group on YouTube doing that, but
Yeah.
uh, I don't. When I step out in the world, I don't have any people doing. They're all being nice. They're all being courteous. They're all being, for the most part. I mean, there's people that butt in lines, and there's people that slam a door on your face and things like that.
Mm.
Don't let you in when you're driving. But for the most part, you don't have to deal with it at all, right, through the day.
Mm.
So why does it matter? Like, where does this matter? I think Christianity still holds a good ethic, say, for humanism, I think.
I think it begins to really matter when somebody's beliefs will interfere with your life. That if my God demanded that we always wear hats on Sunday, but you didn't want to wear a hat, you know, you're going to have a problem. It's like, look, maybe I'll wear a hat, but I don't, if I just don't want to wear a hat on Sunday, who are you to tell me to do that? It's like, well, I'm not saying that. My God is. It's like, well, I don't believe in your God. I believe in a different God. And it's like, oh, well, I guess we'll have to kill you. Well, I don't want you to kill me. Well, too bad. That's what our God wants, So it's like, well, I'd really like for you to not believe that, please, because I don't want to die. So I think that's where the problem comes. And if they were willing to question that idea, then we could sit down and have a civil conversation that wouldn't end up in somebody getting killed.
Right. Exactly. Now,
but,
when you look at some of the Jewish people, what were they asked to do? Not eat a shrimp, not eat lobsters, right? They're not supposed to eat
that's right.
lobsters.
You can't eat leave us lobsters alone. That's right.
And that was just to be different, to stand out, right? That was the only reason. No other reason.
Yes, essentially. There's a lot of the kosher laws were either for purity or dietary. There might have been there might have actually been a biological reason at some point, like that it was more likely that you would get sick from the seafood, or who knows that,
Right.
But at any rate, dietary restrictions, that happens in some religions, not all, but some. And it's just some aspect of your life that the religion is telling you is off limits for whatever reason.
But nobody, I don't think anybody's making you wear a hat, are they? Are people making you wear a hat in the world?
Well, certain people are required to wear entire clothing that conceals them from head to toe in some places. If you're a woman.
I see what you're going. Yeah. Okay.
So, there are remnants and of many religions where their beliefs are being forced upon the people, rather than the people taking on the belief for themselves. It's one thing to decide to be Amish. It's another thing to be forced to be Amish by law. And so if enough people got together of any given religion and said, okay, well, you all have to start doing this, whatever that is. Nope. Now I'm not going to do that just to go, it's like, well, there's,
So I'm going to agree that the minute you give a religion an army, there's trouble.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the trouble begins in the mind of every individual, because if there's some idea that you're not willing to challenge and say, I could be wrong about this, and then that's the thing that you're going to defend to the death. And then that's a problem if and when it comes in collision with somebody else. And it might not. I grant that there might be ideas that are benign to hold, but it's like, look, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Let's just my main message has been, we all should be willing to challenge what we hold most dear. And that goes to skeptics, because we're people too. We're some people have really wacky ideas out there, and I've seen some of those wacky ideas and they scare me.
Right. So that takes us right into idealism, right? And
right.
That's sort of what's going on down in there.
Down in there. Right. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's something where, like I mapped it out. I said I don't think that either side knows what they're fighting for, and a friend of mine said, well, I think that the one side does know what they're fighting for, and I'm like, I don't know. Even if they were really fighting for it, why are they fighting for it this way? Because this is not working. So why they keep doing something that's not going to work? Like, it didn't work before. What makes you think it's going to work now? Like, isn't this they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results? Like,
Yeah.
the protests didn't work before, so now we're going to protest. Plus, some people are going to riot. Oh, well, did that work in the past? No. Okay, so you think it's going to work now? And yet, the thing that did work in the past, the methods that worked in the past are not being used. And that baffles me, completely baffles me. Uh, I just go, why aren't you guys copying what worked in the past? And just do that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. But it's out of my hands. I can't do anything about it. I don't know anyone that can. It's
There's a fellow that I worked with. He went to he had some money. The family had a little money, and he went to 3 or 4 different universities in Canada. He went to Harvard. He studied a lot of stuff in Rome, and I worked with him after he got out of university. One day I was sitting down talking to him, and I said, "Okay, so what do you learn about just the human condition, and do you guys ever discuss that?" And he says, "No, not at all,
hmm.
not even a little bit. Too busy. We've been too busy to even think about those things." So, it that's a real question to ask as well, I think,
Hmm.
which might be why a lot of this is happening. I don't know.
Everyone wants something, and it's like they can't figure out how to get it, or what like what is said by some is not echoed by others, and what's said by others is not echoed. That's it. Well, I mean, there's all sorts of things, and of course, some have said that, well, they just need God, and if they believed in God, then they wouldn't be acting like this. And I'm like, you don't know that. They might be acting worse if they believed in God. They might think that this is, forget about it. You really want to get things going crazy, get crusade type stuff going. I mean,
Well, I think I would disagree with that.
yeah.
This is where we could disagree.
Okay.
Um,
Fight at last.
I think I, I think that Christianity has evolved enough to understand that it's been wrong in the Catholic. Uh, what was that? What's the word? What did they do?
Crusades.
Crusades and
Yeah.
whatnot.
No one
Um,
expects the Spanish Inquisition.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's something that everybody knows nowadays as
Yeah, but
well. So
well,
it's a matter of
it
learning and evolution
yeah,
and
there's
knowledge.
no guarantee that the people would latch onto a good version of any given religion. They might very well latch onto the worst aspects of the worst religions, or the worst aspects of any given religion.
Yeah,
So, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Well,
I
I've
mean,
read that too, you know.
yeah, but they don't. That's the thing. Is like, in a way, there is this. If you could say, if you knew that they were Christian, you could stand up and say, this isn't what Jesus would want. You could try to shame them into behaving, maybe, but they'd all have to be of a particular denomination that agreed that that's how Jesus would think. So, it's like, well, it's not, it might solve the problem, but then again, it might not, because you don't, unless you knew for sure, what, so and we have to. There has to be a secular, non-religious way to say, stand up and say, "Hey guys, girls, everything else, whatever, uh, back down for now because this isn't getting us anywhere. Let's get. Yes, this is a problem. We all know it's a problem. Let's sit down and figure out how to fix it." Rather than hurting and killing each other and hurting property and doing all this nonsense, that's not going to help anything. And
Right.
it's just not I don't know, but it's it's like trying to get at the core of the issue. And usually my focus, of course, is on God and things like this because I go, well, is it that some people come with very strange ideas? I mean, I don't, had a guy that, God is zero. And although what he meant by that is still unclear,
Oh, right.
yeah.
I saw that.
Had the guy that said that, it was revealed to him that David and Goliath is about the solar system. Well, yeah, if you look at the words and select which definition of the words from a particular definition book, then you can make them say just about whatever the bleep you want, including that different stuff about the solar system. But no academic has ever done this, so it's not an idea that's taken seriously enough by anybody. So why would it? Why would It's like if God really did reveal this, why wouldn't God reveal it to everybody? Or why would it not be something that academia already knew that was it just doesn't add up. It I have similar problems with the idea that a God revealed to us, but only in one tiny part of the world that wasn't very literate. It could have very well, you know, going back to sitting down with Moses. Well, God could have told Moses how to write everything because it's God. Here's how to write it. If you don't know how to write it, tell you what, I'll write it and I'll give it to you. And forget about writing it. If God can speak, then just speak all the time. Just tell all of us all the time. Just be there. Don't beam back up. Stay here with us.
So why like I find that a funny conversation that why doesn't God this? Why doesn't God that?
Yeah.
Because he's all knowing. Why can't he just lay what he wants on people's hearts? Like,
Or
why
no,
can't he do that?
just talk to me like you're talking to me.
Oh, I don't think God. I don't see. I don't see him that way.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah.
I can't.
So what? But why
do
not?
that.
Like, why isn't it that way? Like, it's just that's how it is, or
I, we're separated. We're not like he created, right? God just created, and so if he did that, like, I mean, that's what it says in the beginning. So God created the heavens and the earth, whatever. Um, he's not. He doesn't come here and walk around with us, right, and talk to us like that. I don't. I can't see how that can happen. I would rather put it this way. Let's go back to your video on you being a spy and not wanting the people to fight.
Okay, you like that one? Okay.
Yeah, I
Fair
thought
enough,
it was
fair
really
enough.
good.
Yeah.
Because who's got the truth there?
Well, I mean, as far as the whole scenario goes of the I mean, it was obviously kids
So
were playing, but I mean, I'm
okay,
not really
so
trying to understand what you're asking. Like, what do you
well,
want me to do?
well, when you look at it, there's you not wanting the people to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
Even
the
though they
two
were,
groups.
yeah, yeah.
So one group violated the other group, or vice versa.
Well,
Is that
it was in the end, it wasn't an actual fight. It was just this was
mhm.
all for play. And
Right?
but
But what led up to this? Like there's a violation of from one group to another. Is that correct in some way or
no.
another?
See, this is where my memory is imperfect because I mean, this was an elementary school, and I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm not that. I'm a little bit older than that, so I don't remember.
Yeah.
But as far as I can remember, it's just a thing that happened. Like there wasn't. It's just like this is just something that happened one day. Is that people, you know, we're gonna charge at them, they're gonna charge at us. Pretend. We're gonna pretend war. We're gonna play this game. That's really what it was, and that's all I can remember at any rate. Um,
Oh, oh, you wanted to stop a game?
well,
I think you meant something more important than that.
I wanted to have because I did view it as something more. I think I don't know. I wanted peace. I've always wanted. I've been told that at any rate that I'm like a peacekeeper or whatever, and I don't know that I am, but it is something that I desire very much. Is that we all get
Yeah.
along and despite our differences, or maybe because of our differences, that can enhance each other. Even if, or maybe even because we don't understand those differences, that could be useful in some way. Um,
So so let's take your idea of this peace. You wanted peace.
hmm,
And let's pretend that we take one of the groups and you put them in a room and you say to them, "Do you guys want peace?" I bet you they'd all say, "Yeah." Or you go have a beer with them, or you whatever, So let's just grow you up a little bit.
yeah, we'd have to. I'm like, well, we've ruined the analogy now, but okay.
Yeah,
We're taking all these underage kids to go have a beer. Yeah, okay. Well, I think somebody's getting in trouble.
yeah.
But I'm underage too, so it's fine. It's
But
not...
but if we parse this out a little bit, you could probably go anywhere, and I bet everybody would probably agree with you.
Yeah, I think that even the people that are causing this chaos, you know, want that too. They don't want. Ultimately, I hope that nobody wants to do what they're doing, but they
Yeah.
find themselves doing it, and that's been really interesting. That there's been studies about riots. And I got to find them again because I want to make sure I'm right about this. That some people in the riot like had never done anything like that before, and they didn't know why they were doing it. After it was done, like they were interviewed as like, I don't know why we did that. Like, I don't know why I took that TV. I don't need a TV. I don't steal stuff. I don't know why. And like people didn't know why they were even doing it. And there's this theory of group mind or hive mind developed because of
Yeah.
these studies or whatever.
Mob.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the single person might be smart, but the group is dumb. And
Right.
I mean, they've done these small studies where they'll have everybody face the back of the elevator, and the person that comes in, they will usually almost always turn around and face the back of the elevator because everyone else is doing it. So they go along with it. They don't, you know, it's just what you do. And so if you posit a creator, then that creator made us that way for some nebulous reason that we can't, figure out. But it's like, well, yeah, okay, fine, but uh, why not help us since you made us? Like you made us this way, and you're just gonna sit back and watch. I mean, what is the role that this thing is doing anyways? Because you said you don't see it in this way of like it's not something I can just sit down and talk to out loud like I am with you. So what 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 use, I guess, what good, what how does it benefit me to have a god then? I mean,
Well, okay, let's go back to your thing again. So if you went and talked to all these people and they all agree with you, they want peace. Even all the people in the mob, you take them out separately and said you want peace, they'd all probably agree. So there is some truth in the world, right? I think. I think there is, and now going back in time, even at the end of Exodus, it's like, okay, Moses, I'm going to go and just see how you do here, or at the end of Deuteronomy, wherever that is.
So you think the do you think then the point of it is for us to find this peace, to find the love, rather than the
yeah. Oh,
whatever.
yeah. Oh, that's well said. See, this is why I like you.
Well, see, I can't disagree. If that, then I just wouldn't need the word of God. It's just like, well, then love. Okay, great. It's like, yeah, I can agree with that. It's like, that's, if only we could get everyone on board, we'd be okay. But of course, everyone has their own idea, and that's the whole thing. And so it kind of gets back to the question of, well, but if we're going to posit this creator, which is kind of secondary to the idea of finding truth or finding love or finding peace or what have you, the question of, well, why is it not behaving in this way that I would expect, I still think is valid. You don't, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, why don't you view, you view it a different way. Well, why do you view it that way? Like, I don't know if I'm even asking that right, but
Well, hey, what about Weinstein? This kind of brings up, what's his name? Weinstein, right? Have you watched him at all?
Are you talking about the Dark Horse podcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yes, I watch that regularly.
So, he's got a good, like, he's got a really good explanation of the whole way that, I don't know, that it works. You need the transcendent for people to cling to. That's why. Otherwise, without it, in the French Revolution, they tried to make these temples, these pagan temples, and they had a theory behind it, and it didn't work, right? And the Romans tried, and it didn't work either. So this is where something like the Jewish religion stuck together. It's still here. There is a transcendent. It's not. The old days was, the frost is coming in the fall, so there's chaos now. We're going to lose our crop, so you pray to the God, and then the warm weather comes in and pushes the cold out, and we didn't lose our crop. Let's sacrifice to the
Let me ask it this way, because I think I've got an idea of how to ask this. Let's say that whatever the idea is, whether it's real or not, we're going to say that it is, or we're going to hold on to the idea or promote the idea because it's beneficial to humanity.
Well, I'm okay with that. I think there's more to it, but I think I'm still okay with that. Weinstein realizes that there's something about. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's something about the transcendent that holds this all together as a cohesive group.
By the way, we're not talking about Harvey Weinstein. We're talking about a YouTuber person.
Well, he's the guy that got fired.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Biologist, isn't he? Is he a biologist?
I
really like him.
It's
he's a professor.
It's Brett
Weinstein.
Brett Weinstein and Heather. Yeah. It doesn't say her last name on the thing, but yeah, I mean, I don't remember what he said in regards to religion per se, so I'd have to go back and look at that. But or God or transcended or whatever the word is, and I think that the idea that we would have the star, like in Man of La Mancha, to reach the unreachable star, and that the star doesn't have to be there, but the idea, that's what we're going after. It doesn't matter whether the star is there or not. That's the whole point. Is your quest is this noble thing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. You're going into this thing knowing that you're gonna suffer, but you're doing it for good reasons. And then of course figuring out what the good reasons are and how, that's a whole thing, isn't it?
That's a complete summary of that Greek Greek leader's speech. What's his name? A couple hundred BC. What was his name? I've forgotten now. But that's a complete summary of his speech. This is a Greek philosophy, right? What you're describing. But you're right. That is part of it. Yeah. That is part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because the atheist, skeptical people, I would dare say, I don't know if there's been any. Well, I don't think there's any way to know right now with the chaos, but after the chaos has finally ended, we could take some polls and figure out what these people believed in or didn't believe in and see if there's any sort of anything that we can draw from that, but I would speculate that that whether they, well, I don't know. I don't know what to speculate with this. So I wouldn't even, but it might be that, it's hard to say, like whether people have a idea that is transcendent or not. It seems that people have done great bad and great good, whether no matter which way they fell on that. Like it's like both good and bad have been done in the name of and despite of the name of any given deity. So I don't know for sure that that humanity is better or worse off, or it might just be the fact of how we are, that we need some sort of transcendent idea. Whether that transcendent thing is real or not, it's irrelevant. We still need it, quote unquote. I don't know. I honestly, I have no idea, because I'm not, I'm no psychologist. I'm no expert in these things. I just know that the logic, well, for me, the truth matters more than anything else. So I couldn't support something that we were just pretending was true, even if that benefited all of humanity. If it benefited all of humanity to say that penguins were able to fly in the air and they were all purple for whatever reason, to say that lie somehow benefits all of humanity, I'd be like, nope, it's not true, and here's why. Because the truth matters more.
Right. It does.
But some people, that's crazy. Why wouldn't you benefit humanity? I'm like, I don't, because it's just not. It's, well, maybe I'd be hard pressed on that one, but it's just, well, I think the truth matters more, and so if the idea, whether it's God or some other label that we throw on it, if that helps us, I'd be okay, fine. But we're going to call it what it is. We're going to call it an idea. We're not going to call it real. We're not going to call it true. We're just going to call it an idea. And if everyone's cool with that, then I'll be on board. But if not, then I'm going to keep complaining. I'm not, well, look, I'm going to keep complaining about other stuff. Don't get me wrong. But on that thing, at least, I'll go along with it. If it, but it has to be, and getting everyone to that point of where whatever that is can be agreed on is in and of itself a Herculean effort. And that's perhaps why we've seen so many wars in religion and over religion, is because everyone thinks they have the truth.
So what wars over religion are you trying to talk about? Are you meaning?
Well, Rome versus the Greeks, the Crusades, I mean, people have been, Hindus versus whoever, people have been at war and using religion to justify it, and or even in the Bible you have uh, against the Canaanites and Egypt, and you have the Ark of the Covenant. So you have war that is being, well, with the Ark of the Covenant you have a cheat code on one side and you have
Yeah.
nothing on the other side. uh, you have God with them, so that army can't fail. Well, that doesn't seem very fair, but regardless, I just think that I don't think they had any such thing, um, but at any rate, they happened to win the battle. If they didn't, then they wouldn't have been around to write down anything. The
Right.
victors get to write, the history, so to speak, to some degree.
Right.
So
Well, the war on the Canaanites is exactly the rhetoric that's in the ancient Near East. There's, you know, every I think it's the Moabites. They wrote the same thing about Israel. So and about their enemies. They write exactly. It's just almost word
yeah,
for word.
they're the bad guy, right? We always do that. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
wrong. We're right. Their God's not real. Our God is, and so that's kind of what I'm saying. I don't know that it really does help us as much as some people think it does. It might be. I honestly don't know, but I think that is it is a question worth pursuing at any rate.
So
So
there,
I don't. Anyway,
even the Crusades, they did sit down and like this is a lot of the Catholic Church, right? They did sit
Mm,
down and they worried about being just. They truly worried about being
some of them
just.
did.
Now, mobs do what mobs do,
Yeah,
right? So, but
and and
there's
and and certainly some of the leaders took major advantages of Mexico. Wouldn't be Catholic if it wasn't for the invaders, if it wasn't for the Crusades. They had their
Portuguese
own.
and the
Yeah, they had their own.
yeah.
Mexico had their own religion, but that's gone pretty much. It's like I think there's maybe a handful of people that hold on to whatever that was. It was largely wiped out by Catholicism,
Yeah.
and some of the people believed there was actually a story about a white god that would appear, and of course the guy hearing about it was like, oh yeah, that's me, because I want your gold. Yeah, and so that's certainly an abuse. Certainly the Native Americans, you know kind of had a similar thing happen, although they might have been screwed from the moment that somebody set foot on the shore, even if they never made contact because of the viruses and the disease. They were almost wiped out just by that. You
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
what role does their having a way to look at the world in a good or bad way in regards to these viruses? How does
Well,
that how is that part of this creator's thing?
well,
Like, why does
again we
you know
again we have to look at both sides too because 16 15 1600s was the start of the Enlightenment too, so there was a little
yeah,
change of thinking and the people
yeah,
moving through
right,
there were some religious, some
right,
Enlightenment.
but I'm saying that let's stick with the virus thing. It's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, what's the point of that? Like, why are there viruses? Like,
Well, I think maybe they brought them over, but
well, but I'm saying in general, no, forget
they're a
about
big
that.
part of our living, isn't it? Isn't that a big part of our living? Don't we need them?
We need some bacteria. I don't know that we need any viruses per se, but there's certainly some we don't need that are out there that will
Yeah.
kill us. I certainly don't. I think we could have done without C19. So what? Why is this a thing? What is the purpose of this? How is this getting us closer to the truth or anything else for that matter?
So you don't want me to answer that with, "Oh, we live in a fallen world," do you?
No, no. I want to because the world, if it was set up by the creator, was set up to be a fallen world. Then,
So, or it could be like, see, I don't see a difference between our natural world, and I don't see a difference in um, and God's world. I don't see the difference. Maybe I'll try and get through this as best I can if you're patient enough. But uh, we live and we die, and why are we even dying? I mean, why
yeah,
do we even live as long as we do? Uh, but there is something to that, right? There is that does bring love, and it does bring compassion, and it does bring a lot of these things in our world, right? Without it, I don't think we'd have it. I have a a fellow that I grew up with, and he was just a spoiled little kid, and wow, you couldn't. He just everything he did was just horrible, and whether that's part to do with it, and he got away with everything, and I think today he's in jail. So, but there is that sort of element to it, I think too. I won't go into
well,
it too far, but
but then see the thing is, if you imagine it like a programmer that's programming it, but it's not even that. It's that the programmer's not only programming the computer, the programmer also built the computer, and it also built the physics that the computer works under. So it's like, yeah, it would be its fault, no matter how you want to put it. It's like, if you made that system and it has a flaw, it's your fault. You made the whole thing.
so what would make me the person to sit and say, yeah, this is wrong and that's wrong and this is wrong and that's wrong?
Well,
Like,
if we cannot judge the creator to be
right.
good, bad, or other, then how could we ever possibly hope to trust it at all?
So when I think of the creator, I don't think that he goes, okay, well, how am I going to create this world? Let's see. Should I do this or should I do that? I don't think that's how he did it.
Mm.
I think what he did is he decided to create. All right, and he could create anything he wanted, of course, because this choice of what world should I create, I don't think is part of, because that would limit what he can do, right? So if he's going to create, he just creates. And when he's done, what does he say? Well, it's good. He doesn't say it's perfect. He says it's good.
It seems more kind of almost like a hands off approach.
Uh, I would probably say it's more of a like a moving forward. It's a way to say now. So the only time now that we can judge whether it's good or not is because it's already happened, right? So now we can judge the world, and now we can say it's good or it's not good. Before that, there isn't anything, right? There's nothing to compare it with. There's nothing to show, and today we don't have anything else to compare it to. So how, what we can do is we can judge the world, of course, as we see it. I think for the most part, this coronavirus is bad.
Oh yeah,
But
I would think everybody that's died would also agree if they were around to say,
right,
you know,
right,
and I mean, just in, but there's that we humans will triumph, hopefully, over this.
yeah,
But yet, the thing that made us isn't. it's just letting this. It's like, hey, here's how to fix it, guys. Like, or it could, forget that. It could just make it not be. It could just wink it out of existence. And that would be impressive. Then I'd believe that the thing existed. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, yeah. But
Really,
that's not, that's not what it
really.
Oh, if there was a booming voice from the sky that everybody could hear at the same time that said, "Hey, okay, I think you've had enough now. No more C-19," and poof, it's gone. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm God, and this is how I work. That'd be, I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, just give me the same amount of evidence I have for anything else.
You know what?
I
would hate a God like that.
Yeah, well,
I would hate that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like the fact that he comes in and says, "Poof, that's gone. I don't want you doing that no more. That's it.
I fixed it." Well, eventually, But
I
now,
think
if that's what God turned out to be, would you accept God or reject it at that point?
Well, I think I answered that.
Yeah, you would reject. You'd say no, right? Exactly. So I think we're okay. I think we've run the gambit here. It's been very interesting talk. I mean, it's certainly been different than other talks I've had, but I think that's good. People will make of it whatever they will. So thank you for your time to do this, whatever this was. And hopefully we can talk again, and maybe we'll have a better focus. I don't know, but
sure. If you can think of something else, I don't mind. You've been very hospitable and nice. It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah,
and everybody buy his book.
Yeah. Buy my book. Right. That's what this all was about. That was the whole plan. That's the purpose of everybody's existence. To give me attention.
So what's your book about? What's your book about?
It's my deconversion story plus some stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah. It's So anyways, I do need to make a proper commercial for it. But no, I'll let you have the final word, so to speak. I'll just say lobsters. That will be the thing I say, and I'll let you have the final thing.
Turtles.
All right.
All the way.
Turtles all the way down. Okay. I'm pressing the button. Here's the button. This isn't gonna kick you out. Stay here. Wait. Okay, the button. Bye, everybody. Bye. Button. But yeah. Okay. Button.